So do you remember last year at the end of the year how Build Back Better was dead? Then it was, well, maybe it's not dead. And then, no, it's definitely dead. Well, welcome back to the roller coaster because it turns out Build Back Better may be back on the table. So over the last month, Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin have had detailed discussions about what he is and is not willing to accept in a package that would need to be passed in the Senate before the House would be able to adopt it. Now, it's assumed that there's enough support in the House, which is probably a good chance that it would pass over there. So whatever happens in the Senate is very, very important because to get this through the reconciliation process, they need 50 votes. Late last year when this all fell apart, it turns out that Joe Biden and Joe Manchin had a bit of a riff. And the two of them did not see eye to eye, and I guess they haven't even talked to each other up until this point. So Chuck Schumer has taken the lead position in negotiating directly with Joe Manchin to try to get something done. And given the state of things right now, it's no surprise that there's a lot of pressure to get something done. If you remember right, Joe Manchin was the one who ultimately squashed Build Back Better at the end of the year. So here we are now in a new year, coming up on summer, and before the August 8th recess, there is a lot of pressure to try to get something passed before all the senators go out on that recess. The biggest reported piece of this right now is Joe Manchin will not support the union boost. And quite frankly, there's a lot of people who don't quite understand what the point of this union boost was other than to appease potential donors by the president. So with this, that $4,500 boost could be at serious jeopardy, and as a matter of fact, it's flat out been said it's not happening. So to get something done, they are going to have to remove that. But there's also another distinction that you need to be clear about. Under that same piece of the legislation included a $500 boost if the battery was made here in the United States. So really, it's not just $4,500 that would be gone, it's $5,000 that is now gone. There is definitely a lot of discussion right now on that 200,000 vehicle cap. So how the existing law works right now, after a manufacturer sells 200,000 vehicles, it then starts to phase out in quarters. So every quarter it gets cut in half. So from 7,500 to 3,750. The following quarter it would go down in half again, and then ultimately it would be gone. So Tesla and GM are the two manufacturers that have hit that 200,000 cap, and neither of them qualify for any tax credits at this moment. Also, another very important distinction to make, the existing law is based on your income. So you must have $7,500 or more of tax liability to be able to qualify for that tax credit at the end of the year. So if you don't have $7,500 in tax liability, you won't get $7,500 in credits. This new bill is structured a little bit differently, and I think it's a better bill for most people. So there are some changes here, so I do want to go over those and explain to you what this bill looks like now so you can figure out what kind of tax credits could I potentially get if this does indeed pass. This is a 10-year proposal. The first 5 years are for all EVs. The second 5 years will be for US-made EVs only. So example, the Mach-E, which is made in Mexico, would not qualify. All Teslas, they're made here in the United States. Those all would qualify. So keep that in mind, and we should probably see some shifts from manufacturers to moving EV production here in the United States if this were to pass. It is a $7,500 credit, and it's broken out into two pieces. There's a base $4,000 credit for all EVs, regardless of how big the battery pack is. The other $3,500 comes if the battery pack is at least 40 kilowatt hours or larger, and then in 5 years, 50 kilowatt hours or larger. The boost that we talked about, of course, is gone. That $500 boost for having more than 50% US components and a US battery is also gone. $5,000 of this credit is no longer on the table. The last income caps that we had were $250,000 for individuals, all the way up to $500,000 for joint filers. Now, it is important to note that Joe Manchin has continued to say he wants this to be even more targeted, so those income caps may be adjusted even further. For the vehicles themselves, there are MSRP caps, $55,000 for sedans and $80,000 for vans, SUVs, and trucks. Now, those numbers are also not set in stone, and we could see some movement here as well It just depends on what ultimately they're able to agree with Joe Manchin on. This is the biggest difference right here in this credit versus the existing one. This is a refundable credit. I cannot say this any clearer. It does not matter if you have a tax liability or not. You get this credit if you purchase a qualified vehicle. You can be on Social Security and get this credit. So this credit is 100% refundable. Now it is going to roll out in phases. So in the first year, you are going to get this credit at time of filing your taxes. So you won't get that credit at time of purchase. Starting the second year and moving forward, you would get it at time of purchase. So keep that in mind. If you're buying a $50,000 car, you are still going to have to pay $50,000 when you go to purchase it. You will get your refund when you file your taxes. Then moving forward, your $50,000 car would now cost you $42,500 at time of purchase. The only reason I've heard explained for this is because they need time to implement a system to be able to recognize those credits at time of purchase. For used EVs, we don't know if this is going to remain, but there is a credit for used EVs. The car must be at least 2 years or older, must have a price tag of $25,000 or less, a battery pack of 40 kilowatt hours or larger for the first 5 years, or 50 kilowatt hours or larger in the second 5 years. Your income limits for used EVs are different. You can only have $75,000 for individual and $150,000 for joint filers. And again, for claiming these credits, for the first year, it's at time of filing your taxes. For the second year and forward, it'll be time of purchase. Now, this is where we don't have clarity. Is this retroactive? So the previous bill that they were working on, they were trying to make it implemented after December 31st, 2021. So as long as you didn't purchase your car until January 1st, you would have qualified. But this was also in the timeline that they were doing final negotiations. So it wouldn't have been retroactive then, and it wouldn't have been in effect until that date. So it's very likely this date will change to when they actually sign this into law. Or if they kept the language the way it is, it would be a retroactive credit. So if you bought a car anytime in 2022, it would be retroactive if they do not change that language. So after December 31st, 2021, if that stays, this will be a retroactive credit. So the biggest changes here are that we no longer have a union boost, and it makes it a level playing field. For the first 5 years, every EV that is sold will qualify for the tax credit as long as the battery pack is 40 kilowatt hours or larger. So these changes do make it a more level playing field. All EVs with a 40 kilowatt hour or larger battery pack will qualify for the full credit. It doesn't matter if it's union made, non-union made, made by this manufacturer or that manufacturer. All EVs, even ones coming from overseas. Now starting the second 5 years, it will be US made EVs only. So it's targeted at giving manufacturers time to roll in their manufacturing here in the States to bring production here. No longer will we be offering tax credits for cars that are made offshore. Now, like I've said in the past, do not bank anything on Congress getting anything done. So if you are banking on these credits to be able to afford a new car, I wouldn't hold your breath. There's still a long way to go. And although these are great signs that they are having negotiations, and it sounds like they are being flexible with Joe Manchin and appeasing his terms, there's no guarantee this is going to happen. So August 8th is the date we are watching very closely, because that is the prescribed deadline to get this done. Thereafter, there technically is one more window, but it's very, very tight to get this done before midterms. So with all that, there's your update for tax credits. I know that this roller coaster continues to go on and on and on, and we'll continue to update you here on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed. I hope that you enjoy this video, and if you did, give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bearded Tesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.